The call came late in the afternoon, while I was reviewing invoices at my desk. My sister's wedding had been absorbing most of the family's attention for months. Every few days there seemed to be another decision: flowers, music, seating charts. I wasn't involved in most of those conversations, which suited me fine. My role had been described more simply: helping with the financial side when things got complicated. My phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. When I answered, a woman introduced herself quickly as the wedding planner. Her tone had the hurried edge of someone used to problems appearing at inconvenient times. "We have an issue with the venue," she said. I waited. "They've just informed us that securing the date requires an additional $50,000. The number hung there for a moment. I leaned back in my chair. "And this wasn't mentioned before?" I asked. "They say it's due to a scheduling conflict that came up after the contract was drafted," she replied. "Honestly, it's frustrating. But if your family wants to keep the location, the payment needs to happen immediately." There was a faint pause on her end before she added, "Your sister said you were handling the finances." That part didn't surprise me. My sister had always been comfortable making big plans. The details tended to fall to someone else. "What venue are we talking about?" I asked. She said the name. I knew it. Not just as a wedding location. I knew the ownership structure, the management group behind it, and the way their contracts were usually written. "Tell the owner to call me directly," I said. The planner let out a small laugh, not hostile exactly but dismissive. "Honey," she said, "you can't afford this place. That's why I'm calling you now before things get worse." For a second I considered explaining. Instead, I smiled quietly to myself and ended the call. The office was quiet again. Outside the window, traffic moved steadily along the avenue. People crossing intersections, carrying coffee cups, walking dogs. Ordinary afternoon things. I turned back to the invoices on my desk. 20 minutes later my phone rang again. This time the number looked more familiar. I answered. "Hello." A man's voice came through, calm. "This is Daniel Mercer. I understand you asked that I contact you regarding a reservation." Daniel Mercer. The owner. "Yes," I said. There was a brief silence on the line. The kind that comes when someone is trying to place a name. "You're handling the Thompson wedding?" he asked. "I'm helping with it." Another pause, then his tone shifted slightly. "Have we met before?" he asked. "We spoke last spring," I said, "about the Harbor Terrace renovations." Recognition clicked into place almost immediately. "Oh," he said. "Of course." His voice sounded different now, more careful. The Harbor Terrace project had been one of several hospitality investments my firm had advised on over the past few years. Daniel's company had partnered with us on some of those deals. We had never worked closely, but our paths had crossed enough times that he remembered the conversation. "I wasn't aware you were connected to this wedding," he said. I replied. He exhaled quietly. "I see." For a moment neither of us spoke. Then he said, "Let me clarify something. There shouldn't be an additional $50,000 charge. The contract was signed under the original rate." That's what I thought. The planner may have misunderstood a scheduling note from our events team. He continued. "Another client inquired about the same date after your sister's booking. There was discussion internally about moving them to a premium arrangement, but it never affected your reservation." I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. "So the wedding proceeds as agreed?" I asked. "Yes," he said. "Absolutely." He paused again. "I'll contact the planner myself and make sure everything is clear." That would be helpful. A moment later he added, "And if you or your family need anything during the event, please reach out directly." "Thank you," I said. When the call ended, I set the phone down and returned to my paperwork. The office felt exactly the same as it had an hour earlier. Across town, though, the situation was likely shifting. The wedding planner had sounded very certain during our first conversation. I could imagine her now, receiving a call from the venue owner clarifying that the reservation was secure under the original agreement. No extra payment required. My phone buzzed again about 15 minutes later. This time it was my sister. "Did you talk to the venue?" she asked immediately. What happened? "They're honoring the original contract." There was a brief silence. "That's it?" she said. "That's it?" Another pause followed. "Well, the planner said the owner insisted everything was fine," she said slowly. "Apparently there was some kind of confusion. That happens sometimes." Her voice softened slightly. "I didn't realize you knew the owner. I've met him before." She didn't ask how. Growing up, my sister and I had moved through life in different directions. Her world revolved around social circles and events. Mine had drifted into contracts, negotiations, long meetings about properties and numbers. Those paths rarely overlapped. "Well," she said finally, "thank you." "You're welcome." After we hung up, I sat quietly for a moment. The situation hadn't required much effort. Just a short conversation and a name the right person recognized. But something about the planner's earlier laughter stayed with me, not because it offended me, more because it sounded so certain. Certain about what I could or couldn't do. I closed the invoice file and turned off my desk lamp. The office lights dimmed as evening settled outside the windows. In a few weeks, the wedding would happen as planned. Music, speeches, photographs. Most people would probably never know there had been a problem in the first place, and that was fine. Sometimes the most meaningful corrections happen quietly, in the space between what people assume and what they eventually discover.